These videos are brought to you by MSCCasino.com and the Macau Sporting Club. MSCCasino.com. Check it out. Also, be sure to check out PF Painters and their website, pfpainters.com.
You are watching Sports Matters TV.
Okay guys, welcome to a Sports Matters TV special in association with Suit Distributors. We have to give Dave and all the clan a mention. Always good dressing us and styling us, and we thank the lads there at Suit Distributors as always, and of course the Macau Casino as well. We're joined by an icon in Cork. This is an interview that I've wanted to do for many years. And I suppose the reason I started radio and I suppose being on TV over the years was down to the man next to me. He's an icon in Cork, the man that paved the way for all us young fellas, even though Trevor's only a young fella himself. But he's been there and he's done it. He's still doing it. He's still at the top. And we're going to talk all things Trevor Welch, radio, TV3, Virgin Media and radio in general. But Trevor, look, it's an honour to have you here with us.
Great to be here.
I'm a massive fan, and look, I remember first meeting you many years ago in the Commons. Ronnie O'Sullivan was down there. I think it was against Jimmy White. And I remember it would have been the old multi-channel days. Yeah. And you were interviewing Ronnie. But I was the one that asked you for the autograph. I didn't go up to Ronnie and ask him for an autograph. It was yourself. But listen, it's been an incredible career to date. There's many more years left. But we're going to go back to the early days, Trevor. And we're going to go back to a young Trevor Welch in Cork. Tell us about growing up and obviously looked at that first passion for radio. How did that come about?
Yeah, I suppose to my friends, like there was a lot of us good soccer players. I grew up in Edward Walsh Road in Toker. There were 8 of us in the family, and I suppose I was the only one really who was sports mad, you know, at the time. They used to call me the boy with the ball because I had a ball all the time. I went to bed with the football, and my dream was to play, obviously, at professional level. But, you know, I played with Kilreen Celtic all the way up from schoolboys to minor and then to junior. And then I played Munster League a bit with Wembley back in the mid-80s. But, you know, soccer was my passion and to play it. But, you know, I always had a graw for commentary as well, even as like a 12-year-old. And I remember when Man U played Liverpool in the Cup final in 77 and United won it. I'm a United fan since I was a kid, obviously. And my mother's house in Toker, we had an alleyway and there's a great sound acoustics, like there was great sound there, you know, like the alleyway was kind of echoey, and all our buddies just hang around, like, and I went when United beat Liverpool 2-1 in the cup final. I was ecstatic, like, and I went into the alleyway of the lads with a ruler as a microphone, and I went over the goals again at the cup final, and I was kind of saying like green off Macari, green off, and the whole place went wild. But from then, like, even, you know, I had a huge interest in commentators like Barry Davis and John Motson. And I remember their lines, you know, and I used to write them down even. And what I do remember, like, to this day even, like, the short stuff, their short lines are brilliant, like interesting, very interesting, and nice, very nice. And look at his face, just look at his face, things like that. And I was able to write them down, you know. But Brian Moore would have been my favourite. And an amazing story, like, which is true. I wouldn't tell it otherwise. But Brian Moore, I had a huge grow for his voice, very theatrical, you know. And he did a match in the new camp when I was only a kid. And Dennis Law, God rest him, and he died recently, was his co-com at the new camp. And it was Barcelona Man U. And he kind of said, you know, the new camp is a magnificent stadium with his theatrical voice. And it's got its own bank, its own car park, its own hotel. And Ronald Koeman walked into shot on its own, Ronald Koeman. And then he says, but we're so high up here in the stand, me and Dennis Law, and he goes, we could shake hands with Mr. Moon, you know. And lo and behold, 2001, I'm in the new camp with TV3, sitting probably very close to where Brian Moore was, and I couldn't believe it, to pinch myself. And there the new camp is in all its glory, like, and I can remember those words. And I said, me as a 13, 14-year-old in the streets of Cork, and here I am at the new camp. So that was a dream. But how I got into it, I suppose, really would have been radio, and radio would have been my first love, and still my first love, I suppose. I just love radio with a passion. But my brother was on the first pirate radio in Cork, radio station called CBC, the Cork Broadcasting Company. And I was in school in Dare Park, like, and I just rushed home to hear him, you know. He had a programme called Afternoon Delights, and his handle was Noel Evans, you know. Yeah. And he had lovely jingles like, it's a Noel Evans, oh no. And he goes, oh yes it is, Noel Evans. But I couldn't believe it. My brother was on the radio. I was about 15, I'd say. And CBC in general, like, had a great sound, you know.
Yeah.
Some good jocks. And I suppose a year later I asked my brother, would he do a tape with me? I was 16 at this stage, like, and I record myself. I could see him going to discos, like, he had a Ford Capri car, he had his box of records, and I was so envious, like.
A rock star.
I made my mind up, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, I no interest in doing anything else. I remember our guidance teacher, like, drew something on the board one day with all the bus stops, like, you know, guard, fireman, you know, all the usual stuff, like. And there was no stop for me, like. And I said, Welch, where's your stop? And he goes, no, there's no radio station. Like. But anyway, that was the thing, like.
Yeah.
But I recorded myself anyway, and kept going back over it and over it, and tried to improve. And that's what the brother's advice was: just keep going over it. Don't be afraid to listen to your voice back, you know, because a lot of people are.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid of it, like, so I kept going, and the links were tighter, and kind of really got into it, like. And then, I suppose a year later, when I was 17, I was listening to this radio station down the road with me in Cork. I got off a caravan, Radio Carline. And coincidentally enough, as we speak, like, the man who owned it and founded it and was passionate about it died only a couple of days ago, Mickey Daly.
Yeah.
But I went down one summer on my push bike, like, and I says, could I get a job? He goes, just record, just like, give me a tape. So next day I came down with the tape. The brother made it with me. And I gave it to him. And he goes, yeah, there's potential there. He said, look, I'll be in contact, just give me mum's telephone number. And obviously there was no mobiles then. And I came in from training one night. My mum said, there was a guy on the phone, you there, Mickey Daly. So I got beside myself, like. And he said he'd ring back. So he rang back. And an hour later, and he goes, there's a show there for you on a Saturday afternoon. And I made that programme my own, like, for a year or whatever. And that was my first taste inside a radio station, playing the records I wanted to play, like. And I just got the bug. Never looked back. I went to South Coast Radio shortly afterwards. Mickey wasn't too pleased, like, when I jumped ship, pardon the pun, Radio Carling. But I jumped to South Coast Radio, and he wasn't too happy. But Philip Mick O'Brien started that, and I was on South Coast in the mid-80s. So we came back. The old South Coast was the early 80s. So this guy got South Coast Radio back. The next coming of it, like in 85, the year the Cork 800.
Yeah.
And I had a nighttime show called The Snooze Cruise.
Nice.
And I loved it. And I was there then till 88. And the next step then, I got a call for Cork Multi-Channel TV.
Like, there were magic times. Like, we mentioned 88 was the year I was born, but we talk, obviously, the radio days in the 80s. Trevor, they were something else. I remember speaking to Peter O'Neill. I've spoken to Neil Prendeville, numerous people, and they say you cannot beat radio in the 80s. The 80s was just iconic. It was different times.
Yeah.
Thousands of people listening. Now the 90s were good as well, and the noughties and such. But
definitely, yeah.
It was just, obviously, look, the buzz being on the air. You know what I mean? The old methods of doing it today is different. It's all touch,
Yeah.
as you know. But it must have been mind blowing for you to experience that and be completely, you know what I mean, in awe of what was in front of you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Cork was a hotbed, as you know. Like, you mentioned
yeah.
Peter O'Neill there. He was amazing. Like, we had amazing DJs back then. Like Henry Condon, God rest him. He got me onto mainstream radio, as it was on Red FM in 2002. But that's further down the road in the interview. But, you know, people like him, and there was fellas came over, like Tony Allen and Keith York and all these fellas. And it was just a great sound on South Coast. And then ERA came on stream as well, Super Pirates, like, and got advertising and all that. There was a bit of competition between all the radio stations, like Cap Radio, CCLR, Radio City. They were all good.
Yeah.
And, you know, I suppose, like, you look at the DJs that are still around today, like myself, we say PJ Coogan, Ken Tobin, you know, KC, not KC, but what's his name, Stevie G.
Yeah.
Like, further down the road, you know, we all have Pirate Radio to thank, like, because just gave you that confidence behind the mic. And the more you did it, you know, the more passion I get for it, the more you'd fall in love with it, for me anyway.
Yeah.
And my nighttime show was popular, like, because I played a lot of slow songs for Danny and Mary, who were madly in love, you know, things like that, requests coming in. And I remember we had the phone, we were down the North Main Street, up in this kind of old flat, and the phone would ring, but a red light would come on, because we can't have the sound, obviously. But we had loads of people coming into us, so in that time, you know, it was like a meeting place as well as a radio station.
Yeah.
And just attracted so many people. I remember John Caulfield even coming in when he came to Cork in '85. I played with John actually.
Wembley. I was thinking that. Yeah.
And John came down, and he was probably didn't know too many people at the time, but he knew what he was doing. He probably lived around the North Main Street, I think, that way, somewhere around there, maybe North Mall or something. But he's come in when he was bored and pick out a few records with me. But it was a great learning curve, and I still miss pirate radio, because you said, like, mainstream radio now is just, you have no control of the music you play.
Yeah.
But you're kind of, back then you were known as a DJ for the music type you played.
Yeah.
And you were kind of rated accordingly, like, with the kind of type of music you played,
It is different, and it does cement your legacy, I suppose, being a legend in the 80s, the 90s, and obviously a legend today. But it's one of them things. I always had the stories, Trevor, of the 80s. It was just an iconic time, I remember Nick
music,
Richards.
like,
Nick Richards even telling me a story one day, and I was like, we were rock stars. Walking around the city, everyone knew who we were. No internet back then, but we were rock stars, and you can never replicate that. I completely understand where he was coming from, but we'll get to the Red FM and the 96 stuff in a sec. Like, obviously you meant the multi-channel, and that was a big turning point for Cork. People still talk about that to this day, but it was down to yourself and a few others that did groundbreaking stuff for Cork. It was the start of seeing big things on our TVs. The people in Cork were loving it, but you had a big part to play in that, and let's talk about that. Obviously that came about, Trevor, and it was a big deal for Cork.
It was a big deal. And you talk about the 80s. Why it was so big, I suppose, because the music, even I played a lot of 70s as well, and the 80s borrowed from the 70s, and there was always a debate which one's the better decade for music. But I used to play both, and my show was brilliant. 70s, you couldn't go wrong. Like, I just look back on the music I'd select it a couple of days before for the next few days, and you're leaving out classics, like, it was a 3-hour show at night time, but the music was just unbelievable, like. Even to this day I just play all that music still, like. But on Nick Richards, there's one good story before I move on to the TV. When he came to Cork in the early 80s, he was on the ship in Radio Carling, and he said before you got a gig you'd have to paint the boat, help paint the ship. But he anyway, when I got raided, whatever, he closed down for a while, and I think Keith York, I might be wrong on Keith York, but somebody anyway in Cork advised him to come to Cork. It's a great pirate radio scene, and Nick came over, and he thought, the Cork DJs couldn't be that good, and with his experience with Radio Carling. But he told me the story himself, that he got a taxi at Cork Airport, and he asked the taxi driver, he did Radio 1 on whatever, and he said, "Could you put on South Coast Radio?" Like, "It's no problem." Put it on anyway. Next he heard a jingle from Peter O'Neill going, "Wow, he's good." Then he heard Henry Condon coming on, Henry Condon here, South Coast Radio, whatever. He said, "Wow." And all of a sudden I'm thinking, I won't get a game. That's the standard, like, the South Coast there. But from South Coast and the North Main Street, it was about 3 years there, and the story of multi-channel, how it came about, is there was a guy who had the transmitter on South Coast, John Fulham, but he opened a radio station in Galway, Coast 103, and me and Paul Byrne, he invited me and Paul Byrne up in the summer of '88, and he said, "Come on up," he said, "and see what I'm doing." Like, so we were on the holidays, we were young fellas, we had nothing to lose. We went up, we both put on radio.
What a duo, by the way.
But yeah, Paul was on the afternoon, I did the drive time, and I loved it, like. But we were there about a week, and I had sent in a kind of an audition, a multi-channel before I went, just threw my name in the hat, like. And the lads just used to listen to Trevor, like, he's big into sport. There's a lot, even back then I was doing sport on pirate radio, and Mickey Mack, God rest him, from around this area here, he said that he was going through the potential sports presenters, and he invited me in for an audition. So when I came back from Galway, straight into George's Key, remember, like, long hair and an earring, and got into multi-channel anyway, because they had, the sports presenter was Eamon O'Keefe, he was the Cork City manager, but himself and Bill Haydock were presenting it, but they weren't up to scratch, like. So they wanted a young fella to come in, but a big interest in it. So a few of us auditioned, and Mickey Mack said, "Can you commentate?" I said, "I'm what?" And he said, soccer, because we're doing a Cork City match, funny enough, against Monaghan in the FAI Cup early rounds. That was a week later, and I says, "Yeah, sure, I'd never done a soccer. I might have done a Munster League match, like, highlights, and went over, voiced it." But he said, "No problem." So he gave me Arsenal Man U in a cup match, an old game, like. did 20 minutes of it, and he goes, right, done. He says, get your hair cut, you have the job. So I was with those more, and he said, just tidy up, get the hair cut, because I thought I was born on it, and you too. But so got the hair cut and went into multi-channel, and I did that first game in Turner's Cross. So we filmed it, and I did the highlights after it then. And I remember my first goal description was John Caulfield, funny enough, into the shed. And I goes, Caulfield, this could be number one for City. It is. And the rest is history, is what I said.
And that was the game changer. Look, we mentioned how iconic that is. Obviously, look, the black box was a beautiful thing back then. We Cork was in a really good place. We talk, I suppose, the late 80s, the early 90s. Very, very kind of interesting Cork at that stage. But it changed everything for you, Trevor. I think from there up then it was more success, and like it brought you to many big things. But yet again, in Cork around them times, the Cork City things were huge. I remember being at the games, even up as far as 95, 96, you'd stand at the corner flag, you'd wave trying to get on telly. It was huge, and like what was the buzz around Cork for you then? Obviously being on the screens, you know what I mean. There have so many people watching every week. Obviously, it was a big thing for you, and I'm sure you'd go into a bar, you wouldn't even have to buy pints. You know, fellas would look after you, Trevor.
Yeah, it was an amazing time, like, and you know what an experience, a learning experience, like, because you're thrown in the deep end, really.
Yeah.
I had to do commentary, reports, the running orders. You were just thrown in there and do it, like sink or swim, you know.
Yeah.
But I always felt comfortable in front of camera, funny enough. Even though, as I said earlier, like my passion is radio, but just the TV side of it. Back then, I mean, Cork City were, you know, they had a lot of good players, and we kind of made them household names. They were on the highlights every week.
Yeah.
Friday was preview, Monday was the review. But like the likes of Dave Barry, Frayne, Fergie O'Donoghue, Biscuits, Phil Harrington, like they loved it. Like and you know they were on a good run then as well. So was it year was it when they got to the cup final? It was 89, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was 89 against Derry. So we went up to Derry as well, like, or up to Dillon Park. I commentated in the cup final. I remember staying in the Green Isle Hotel the night before, you know, and Nolan Manny, God rest him, brought the players to Mass on the Sunday morning.
Jesus.
We went walking, you know, from the Green Isle in Dublin. I pass it all the time when I go into Dublin for Virgin Media, like, but I always remember that, walking down, and I remember interviewing Pat Duggan. He's a comedian, like, very funny.
Good sense of humour, yeah.
Great sense of humour. He used to do Frank Spencer in the works. But I said, on the way up on the train, I said to him, Paddy, confident against Derry Sunday? Very confident. He said, a couple of backs on Cork Sunday night. No, I'm not coming home till Monday. He said, but, you know, funny things that you remember. But they were beaten anyway, obviously, after a replay. So the match ended in a draw. Dave Barry hit the post in the first one, but they were beaten. Felix Healy getting the winner, I remember. But funny enough, Alex Ferguson was at the match, and he'd only been United a few years. Obviously came over in 86, didn't he? So 3 years later, he was after Brian Carey, the Cork City centre back.
Yeah.
But I interviewed him. They were saying Alex Ferguson's at the game. Like, so after the game, I spotted him and I called the lads over straight out, interviewed him, and I said, you know, good to see you, Alex, and you know, there's a reason why you're here, kind of thing, and we're looking at any player in particular, and he didn't get to get bought game away because I think Everton were chasing Brian Carey as well or something like that. There was other clubs after him. And he goes, no, he says, just two goalkeepers impressed me, he said. Dalton for Derry and Phil Harrington for Cork City. Two good goalkeepers, he said, you know. And I said, what's your standard? And he says, quite good, John, great atmosphere, and boom, boom, boom. And I said, you're not after any defender in particular? I knew he was after Carey. Like.
Yeah. He
goes, no, just looking at the game. I'm in Ireland, and I said I'd go and watch the cup final. And sure, like, what he did after was amazing. But it was great to get Ferguson so early, 89. That was another experience. But I think all in all, when I look back at multi-channel, I think I'm right in saying I interviewed something like 8 world champions, a few snooker players, Steve Davis, like, and Stephen Hendry would have been in there.
Yeah.
And you know, you're looking at, I interviewed Jack Charlton, Bobby Charlton, like,
some crack I'd say with the two lads.
Steve Collins, all world champions. It's amazing. Like, the ground in the multi-channel gave, you just couldn't buy it.
Yeah.
And you know, I so many great memories there, like travelling with Cork City to Moscow in 89, like,
oh yes,
you know what I mean. I was only there a year, and I convinced our MD at the time, passed away recently, Jim O'Shea. His two sons were cameramen there, Mark and Mark and Dan O'Shea, young fellas, and I said to him, Jim, we have to go to Moscow. I said, City's first ever game in their history in Europe. And I said, it's be priceless. He says, no way, Welch. He says, no. Turn it down flat. So I came back to him the next day and he says, Jim, you regret that, I'm telling you. I said, the Examiner there, the Echo, you've Cork local radio, RT local radio, you've other journalists from Cork going over. I said, we're the only ones. And we're doing all the Cork City matches. And he was thinking about it. And I said, look, your two sons, great experience from that. That's the card they played.
That was the...
And I said, which was too, great experience for the two young fellas. And they were saying, well, keep pushing it. They wanted to go as well, obviously.
Yeah. So
he came back, all right, your visa sorted. So I remember him giving us, he gave me something like $300. And he said, look after the young fellas. And he says, make sure you look after them, Welchie, because they're only young fellas. And I said, oh, well, they're safe with me. And we were all laughing. That was it. But I remember, I think we'd say on a Monday, the match might have been on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Flew to Shannon Airport. But I remember Jim O'Shea collected me, himself with the two sons, in a gold Merc, right? And I was looking out the window in my mum's place, and we were showing my mum was there, so God rest her. And you wouldn't hear the car coming up, just smooth up the gold Merc. And I looked at it and I said, this is the life, I'm heading off to Moscow, been picked up by a gold Merc in Cork multi-channel. And I remember my mum waved me off. Then we met at the Imperial Hotel. Pat O'Donovan's the chairman, gave me a lovely Cork City tracksuit top, which I still have, signed by everyone. On that trip.
Worth a few pound.
On that trip in '89 Moscow. So we flew to Shannon, big jet, including Patsy Frayne, who was very nervous of flying. But when we landed in Moscow, there was a lot of Torpedo Moscow fans there that thought some of the City players play for Ireland, and they're all getting autographs. But the great story about Moscow was the night before the match, we went to a press conference. It was underground, under the stadium, it was an old army stadium.
Yeah.
And a few Russian fellas there with the vodka out and the grapes and the bread, right? And George Scannell was our interpreter. He went on to be Andrew Kinshelsky's interpreter after us from Manu.
Yeah.
He was with us. And everyone that spoke, we'd say they had spoke, we'd like to welcome Cork City to Moscow. After every, you have to drink a glass of vodka after. I came out of the place hammered. Me and all man, up the steps of the bus. I couldn't hold Shores vodka neat, like the real stuff and right. That was some memory. And then did the game, of course, and put it out. Put about an hour of it out from multi-channel, City's first game in Moscow. That's the kind of experience you had, and I travelled elsewhere as well, in Prague,
Yeah.
You couldn't buy that experience, as a young.
And you can't get it now because you've been there and done that. You know what I mean?
It was unbelievable. It stood to me like going on with TV3, which you get to shortly, but all of that's because we had no audio or anything. I wrote and memorised most of my stuff, and we no makeup, nothing.
Jesus.
It was just thrown in there. But I was there 10 years, 88 to 98, and some of the best days of my life, multi-channel. I've so much to thank multi-channel for my career,
Yeah. They were iconic, Trevor, and I tell you, I still remember as a young kid, I was fascinated with the Cork City games, 96, 97, 98. Seeing yourself on screen, seeing you around the city. We all knew who you were as a kid, and that was the thing. And that brought you to obviously TV3, which is groundbreaking. Obviously, we were so used to RT and such and such, but TV3 came along and took you to another level. Obviously, your own shows. There was much more. Traveling the world, we've seen you on TV, Jose Mourinho, the big games, the traveling. You were like a rock star in them days, Trevor. And listen, it must have been, obviously the multi-channel experience was iconic, and that was everything for you. But making that move to TV3 must have been another game changer for you completely.
Incredible, and just before going to the one big thing, of course, with the multi-channel was the double in 1990, and we actually filmed the homecoming. I was on top of the Savoy balcony, Savoy, commentating back to studio on the bus coming around the corner, coming down Patrick Street, and the two cups there was unbelievable. And remember Billy Morgan saying, the footballers were questioned, their bottle was questioned, in the final. How the lovely footballers, but how did the bottle, and he said, what bottle were they talking about? Billy Morgan, and he says, you can take the cork of the bottle, but you can't take the bottle of the cork. And that was the place went ballistic. I'll always remember that moment. But I suppose roll on to 98 then. My last few games, I think my last game ever was a Cork City match funny enough, and I did a bit of Tour de France when I was in Cork as well.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
Just to mention those, because that was, that was the type of experience of multi-channel, which was incredible for local TV, and everyone misses it now, obviously. But how the move came about then, I was editing one day with John Lynch, who's now with RT.
Yeah.
He produces the Today Show. But he saw the article, I didn't even see it on TV3. They were looking for sports presenters and sports reporters and the works. And he said to me, "This is for you, you know." And I was looking at it and I haven't even seen it. Like. And he says, "Just send him a story, will you?" And I said, "We'll do it here." So done it that day. A few commentaries, bit of reporting, piece of the camera. I sent it up and thought no more of it. Because I was doing so much in Cork anyway. I was doing DJing, low stuff.
Yeah, MC and everything. Yeah,
MCing and and I love Cork, like, so I wasn't kind of too pushed if I didn't get a call, I'd be honest.
Yeah.
Because I was so busy, I was doing loads of stuff. But lo and behold, like, I got a call from Bob Stokes, who was one on the panel that interviewed me. Bob Stokes, Andrew Hanlon, and Kieran Devaney, Getting Sky, So got the call, and you've an interview. So I said, right. So to make excuses, a multi-channel needed a day up to Dublin. I think my buddy drove me up for the first one, and yeah, he drove me up, and they were out in Sandyford. The interviews were in Sandyford, so I've done the interviews, told me a few stories about Cork and my experience in Cork, and be versatile, like, the commentary in athletics, the commentary in boxing, rugby, mostly soccer. Of course, GA, there are a load of GA commentaries, believe it or not. People wouldn't know that.
I didn't know either, no, actually, until you said it, yeah.
That didn't see people that wouldn't have seen multi-channel, but they did all the county finals from 88 to 98. County finals in hurling and football.
Jeez.
Me and Jeremy Mack commentating. Marty came in for a small bit at the end, but did all those for 10 years. But did the interview, got back to Cork. But a week later, got another call. You have a second interview, so they were narrowing it down. Obviously, it was only down to 5 of us. I think there was 5 left, whatever. So I'm back up again anyway. And I think I got to train up this time. But I remember going into Bewley's, Noonan's Cross, to meet Damien Richardson. He's the Cork City manager. Rico. And he was encouraging me. Like, he said, "You got a second interview. See if you have a big chance. You'll get one of the roles anyway, like, kind of thing."
Yeah.
I remember that. I talked to him. So off to Women Lane Studios anyway, and this is true. I'm waiting outside, and you've Grania Shoiga next to me, Mara Duran, never speaking in Irish, and I was thinking, I hope I don't need Irish to get the gig, and I was there. But anyway, long story short, into the studio, which is where U2 recorded Boy, the album, and I'm a U2 fanatic, and I said, "That's me done, and if I don't get the gig, I don't care. I mean, where U2 recorded Boy." Sitting on the Women Lane Studios. So they called me in, they gave me 3 different scripts. One was kind of a happy story, one was a sad story, and one was just general kind of sports news, see how you would adapt facially and a whole lot. But autocue was a piece of salt for me, like, because I got used to autocue, so autocue was like an easy job. Like.
Yeah.
And did a piece to camera, just general stuff then, general chat to people involved. He said, "Grant, talk to you soon again." back to Cork again. Got a call. Bob Stokes rang me, and remember just ready to go out into town to meet the lads. Bob Stokes goes, "Trevor, Bob Stokes from TV3 here." I said, "Hiya, Bob." He said, "You're doing very well in your interviews." And he said, "How does it sound to anchor TV3? I thought I might get a reporter job."
Yeah.
And then I'd have to think about it as I worked it. But when he said, "Going to anchor TV3 Sport," I said, wow. So, first ever startup station, independent TV, and I'm going to be the anchor. So he said, what are your thoughts like? And I said, brilliant, to get time to think really. Like, so I said, brilliant, over the moon, whatever. Even though it kind of wasn't really, to be honest.
You had a good thing going to Cork, but yet again, look, this is new territory.
Yeah, and my friends then, like, that I met up with, my closest friends would say, "Oh no, this is game breaker. You have to go. Like, this is." Because I'd be homeboard as well, like it or not. And they said, they'll get rights to things like maybe Champions League and all that. And I said, nah. You're thinking like, nah. But it happened.
It did.
Only 2 years later. So 2000, we got the news. Obviously, I read news for the first year and did the Sports Tonight show, which was late at night. And I enjoyed it, but commentary is my thing, like, and I missed it so much, multi-champ and doing the GA matches and Cork City matches. And I was thinking, will I ever get commentary again? And out of the blue, we got the Champions League. I think it was 2000, the year 2000, and we got the Champions League. I just couldn't believe it, like, with RT dominating, obviously, and then the decision had to be made who was going to commentate. So it was me and Colin McNamara there, like, who had some experience of commentating, but not at that level, obviously. Yeah. But the talk on TV3 was that we wouldn't be experienced enough, so they were looking at this guy, John Helm from England, very experienced commentator, to come over. Right. So our producer Michael Lynn, to be fair to him, like, I have him to thank for a lot. Like, he said, what do we want an English guy coming over doing an Irish TV commentary for? Like?
Which is true, yeah.
And they thought about it and they said, well, who's going to do it? And I said, Trevor, Connor. And he said, gotta give him a chance. He said, I'm confident that the two of them won't let us down.
They'll do it, yeah.
I was delighted, of course, like, and he fought O'Connor. And of course, I did the first match in the new camp. I was telling about Brian Moore earlier.
Yeah.
It was Leeds and Barcelona. We were up at the Gods. I remember it was a very warm night. I was sweating, like, and half nervous and half day. But I was with John Toshak. And Toshak was brilliant, like. And he knew it was my first game, like, at that level. It gave me huge encouragement, to be fair to the man, you know. Yeah. And because you could tell I was kind of nervous, like, especially when you're so high weight. Again, the numbers, like, were invisible, really. Yeah. I had to go on the monitor a lot, like. But I got through it. I knew there were mistakes in there, obviously, like, was fun. But when I got back, I went through with Michael Lynn, and, you know, he put his neck in the block for me, like. Yeah. And he said to the lads, you know, his first commentary that I did very well, like, so let's see how he does in the next few. Got the next one, I think it was in Leeds. I was in Old Trafford then, like, at the point being a United fanatic, like. I remember staying in a hotel across the road and looking at the ground, like. I said, I'm going to be there tomorrow night, making my debut as a commentator. Because United and PSV.
Big game.
Big game. And did the match, and I thought that was my best match. Now before, it was growing confidence. Yeah. I think I was getting tighter, you know. And years later, like, 14 years in doing commentaries like Champions League, Europa League, international stuff. You know, the European Championships games in France in 2016. I did the final. Yeah. In France and Portugal 2016. So I done huge matches. I did 2 Champions League finals to get it something like 8 Europa League finals. So I did about 15 European finals. So from going up there with no rights or anything
to get into where you were, like,
to doing that many matches.
Trevor, it's surreal. Like, I think back, these are big years for me as a kid, right, and as a teenager when we're growing up and we're watching the Champions League. And we mentioned 2000, even 99, 2000, 2001. These are big years for football in general. The Premier League is massive. The Champions League is massive. We're talking players, like the likes of Roy Keane, Beckham, great to the game. Like, it's been an iconic United fan as well. We know you're a big United fan. Like, you know, try to keep your game face while seeing like the likes of Fergie there. I mean, you've got all the access. Like, you know what I mean? Did you pinch yourself at any time and in a moment saying, I'm here now? I remember you as Mourinho. I remember like the big Chelsea teams, the big United teams. Like, you're in there and you're a Cork man, a guy from the south side, and you're doing all this years of hard work. Was there any stage you pinched yourself and said, look, I worked hard and I've done really well for myself? Yeah, a lot. Like, you know, as you mentioned there, like the players that was coming today, obviously Roy and Dennis, who I know, you know, I'd be good friends with Dennis Irwin. Like. Yeah. And you know, doing games like with big United players, the biggest players in the world. Like, I mean, Champions League is, for me, is the best soccer competition in the world. Like, the best players from everywhere. Like, you know, commentating Zidane. Like, Zidane's my favourite player probably of all time in the modern era. Anyway. Yeah. I just love watching Zidane, and I just commentating his goal he scored in the final in Glasgow in 0-2, the volley. Remember, it's behind him. I remember it well. And it was just unreal. But I suppose, like, when I was commentating, I'd say at Old Trafford,
I was doing the interviews as well.
Yeah.
So it was the whole package.
We'd all see. I remember like you'd see afterwards. You'd see Trevor. Look at Trevor. Look at
Yeah.
Trevor. We'd see a trial. We'd ask you the question. What was it like? And you
Yeah.
give it the answer. But it's surreal.
Interviewing Alex Ferguson was just unreal. But I interviewed him good few times in the end. But I suppose for TV3, to be fair, when we were going to those games, we were only 4 or 5, 6 on the list.
Yeah.
So you really had to push yourself.
Yeah.
And my knack was to say, we're off air at 10, I got to get him next, because they'd only do about 2 or 3 interviews, the manager.
Yeah.
And we were 5th, so we'd miss a lot. Only before I got into your growing confidence and suss out the scene, as a fella said. And I'm good at that in Cork. But what happened was, I'd say to the UEFA person on, I said, look, he's after doing his second interview at this stage, Ferguson. I said, I got to get him next because we're off here at 10. We were off here at half 10. And he'd say, okay. And he said, see what he can do. Then Alex, and he pushed him into me. I did that a few times with different players and managers along the way. But my favourite interview of all time was with Ferguson in Germany, in Schalke, when I got to the final. And the final was to be in Wembley. And I talked to him about the tradition of United with Busby, the Holy Grail. You're not a Scot. And what of the Scots got, that mentality. The great managers, Jock Steen, all that. And he went on. I had him for ages. I talked about going back to Wembley, and that's where Busby had United in '68 and all that. And he talked about it, and 2 best teams in the world at the time, United and Barcelona. Obviously, Barcelona got the better of them.
It is.
But and I was at that final. It was incredible. To say you did a Champions League final with me watching European finals as a kid, it's amazing. I did one in Old Trafford as well, 03, the Milan, the all Italian show. Milan and Juventus, and I remember asking some of the interpreters from Italy about phraseology, and I ended up with Benvenuto alla show Italiano, welcome to the all Italian show in 03. But great experiences at that level, and to be still doing it today, I just touch wood, I'm still doing it in 2025.
You'll be doing it for another 40 years, Trevor, the way you're going, you're flying it. But there are iconic times. We speak of obviously multi-channel TV3. For me as a kid growing up, there was everything your own, anchoring your own shows that we'll never forget. There was times where we missed the multi-channel, we missed TV3 today. You're still involved in TV, obviously there's a bit more there, and we're going to see on TV for a lot more. But obviously you still have that passion. We know radio for you, first of all, is the key passion. We're lucky enough to have you on 96 FM, a great show on the weekends. But it's obviously you still love the TV, still involved, and look, many more years to go.
Yeah, and next Friday actually I'm doing Cork City Drogheda this Friday.
It's going to be a good game.
So really looking forward to doing that. I love the League of Ireland. My dad would have brought me to League of Ireland Cork Kids when I was 10 in 1975. So
you would have seen some players too.
I've League of Ireland in my blood. I've Dav and Becuzzi and Sweeney and Lawson. I interviewed loads of them on the way. I just have League of Ireland running through my blood, and I'm just over the moon that I got the chance to commentate in live League of Ireland games. Yeah. I've done, as I said, Champions League, European finals, Europa Leagues, but the League of Ireland is close to my heart, And I did a Waterford game recently in a Munster Derby. I loved it, and Friday now really looking forward to it. Did the Nations League stuff recently with Spain and Netherlands just last week.
Yeah.
So I love it. Every game, I put the same into every match because I'm just passionate. When that red light comes on, I'm live. I'm just in a different gear, in a different zone, and I just love live commentary, no matter who's playing, Yeah. And it's just great to be able to still do it. And even the prep, the preparation, obviously is the key. As one famous man said, fail to prepare,
Yeah.
But I've been working all week this week now on Drogheda, because I haven't seen them playing this year, but I've done a lot of work on them.
And they're decent. They're decent this year.
Very good side.
Yeah.
Changed their formation. Very good. Good with pressing the ball, getting results. They were unlucky against Rovers, missed the late penalty last week or 2 weeks ago. But I just love it. I love the whole preparation, getting to know players where they played from before. I think the key for commentary is really leaving the game breathing, not talking all over the game, because commentary stems from comment, and I love the short stuff. And I suppose you learn a lot about the tools in commentary the more match you do, obviously. There's little tools to learn from it, but leaving the game breathe is the key, I think, and getting the big calls right, obviously.
Yeah.
There's so much to commentary. People ask me what's the difference between commentating TV and radio. I say radio is easier because everyone can see TV and everyone's an opinion then. And if you do make a mistake and fell on the ball, everyone can see it. And then the other thing is, don't tell us what we can see. Like my producer Michael Lynn said to me years ago, don't say it's a goal, because everyone knows the goal. Try to come up and use your imagination with different things, like, you know. You know, like the one I said earlier with, you know, Rooney on a hat-trick. Can he do it? Yes, some things were meant to be. Don't say it's a goal. Just I'm always working on that, you know, to get a good description for a goal. And start well. Obviously, like with your strongest stuff, like, and bring the game to life is the thing, like, so to tell you, like, always try to bring the game to life. If the game dies, like, try your best to
bring it back up,
bring it to life a bit, like, you know. But I love it. Still learning, obviously. Every commentator should tell you that, like, that they're still learning.
Every day's a learning day.
Every day is a learning day, and every day is a different game, and you just have to be kind of alive to everything that goes on, obviously, you know, for 90 minutes. And plus, you're at it, like.
And your life. That's the main thing. It's look, it's been immense, first of all, watching you these last number of years, ever since I'm a kid, but I'm looking forward to the next 30 years with the TV stuff, Trevor. And, like, I'm a big fan of your radio show right now on Cork's 96 FM. Obviously, look, Red FM was iconic, many big years, many awards, accolades there. But, like, you know what I mean, you're still dropping a good few tunes on that show. I know, as you say, everything's kind of lined up. I remember doing stuff at Red FM, and as you say, you go in and you get your script and you know what you have to play and you have your links and stuff, but you still drop a few classics here and there. But look, obviously radio is everything for you, and look, it must mean a lot to obviously be on 96 FM here at home. All your friends, family, you can still listen, and listen, a great show, well produced show as well right now.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, the score, Sundays 2 to 6, Bailey Olaf produces with me, but again, like, it's a good mix of music and sport. If I had my own way, obviously, like, I would have less music and more sport. But that's the way the station goes. It's a very music-driven station, obviously, in 96. But I'm lucky, like, that I can sprinkle a fair bit of sport into it. Interviews, updates and stuff like that. I think the key for me on any radio show, like that special sport, is energy. You know, having that energy and good connection between studio and reporter of the game. Like Phil McCarthy's a lot of GA stuff, for example. And we have that connection, like, to keep it lively. You know, if you don't keep it lively, the listener's not going to be, you know, I just love radio anyway. And it's the biggest passion of mine, really, radio, I suppose. But I love doing it 2 to 6 every Sunday, and I do the Talk Sport, then Premier League Live on the Saturday online. So equally, like, I mean, it's a long day, it's a long show. I'm in there like at 10:30 Saturday. Don't get out at 7:30, 8:15. It's 3 live commentary matches, but again, you're working at that level again, and it's a well produced show. Rob Allen does that with me, and you know, it's gone out all over the country. The Wireless Group, like, own obviously Sport Live 95 Limerick. We're going out in 104 FM and Q102 in Dublin, and LMFM. So we're spreading the love in the Premier League Live all over the country. So it's good. It's growing all the time, you know, and it's huge potential, that show. And obviously the branding, Premier League is the biggest soccer brand in the world.
It is. I remember when obviously the Talk Sport stuff, because obviously there was the collaborations, you know, there was more connecting. You know what I mean? Your weekly guest, even, like, you know what I mean? Like, you'd have all the contacts, Trevor, from many years of work, but all the big names on with you every week. Dalglish was on with you. Like, that's only a small name compared to the names that you always have on, but you're kept busy with it. And look, being a sports fanatic, it's the dream scenario, dream job. Yeah,
definitely. It's just padding for us. Like, obviously we have the 3 live commentaries, and then we pad the rest, like, you know, which is sometimes it's just hard to get guests, like, but we've I'll be looking at my own contacts I can call on, and guys that are playing around Ireland, we might get them, you know, like Dalglish was in Cork recently, got him, David May and some of the United fellas, Keith Gillespie, Lee Martin were all in Cork recently, got all them. But we'd always get interviews as well from the UK Talk Sport, like whoever's on the 5:30 game, like a David Connolly or whatever, you know. We get them ahead of the 5:30 game, which is good. Fabio O'Brien then is the regular guy. We get Paddy Mulligan, who's obviously knowledgeable. He played a long time ago, but he's very knowledgeable in the game still. Watches a lot of Premier League. So, you know, it's a show I always look forward to, and I think as I said earlier, like huge potential in it as well, you know. So it's great to present it.
Yeah.
Again, a first. So I've been involved in a lot of firsts, like multi-channel, TV3, Talk Sport, coming over Ireland first. So I was lucky enough to be involved in a lot of firsts, you know.
Definitely. Look, we're lucky to have you on the airwaves. You know, it's something that we're grateful for. When we know you're back on the radio, when they announced it many years ago, like we were like, you know, Trevor's back on the radio. It's great news, and you know, it's good to have it, and it's an iconic thing. Do you know what I mean? We always talk about the Oldies and Irish show on a Sunday, but we have Trevor Welch in as well, and they're things you need, Trevor. We need to have them things. We're very lucky to have you on the airwaves, and I can only imagine what the next 20, 30 years is going to bring us with Trevor Welch. You know what I mean? You're only a young fella, Trevor. A young fella.
Young fella anyway. I was 60 recently, but I still feel you're as young as you feel. You know yourself. I have a load to go. I've that bundle of energy I always had since I went into radio first. I still have the same energy.
Yeah.
A lot wiser, like obviously a lot more experienced.
Of course.
But you know, I go as long as I can. I just love it. I mean, you know, I'm doing what I love, doing radio and TV.
Yeah.
You know, I suppose like in the 80s I was doing all the radio, and then TV late in the 80s now I'm doing both, like, so, you know, I've been doing both for a long time, like, but and I love the mix of it.
Yeah.
Probably love to do a bit more radio commentaries, you know, and I'm just hoping that maybe, you know, in time to come, I might do a bit with Talk Sport as well, commentaries. You know, you never know. World
Cup. It's
Cup,
around the corner, surely.
World Cup, like
you're knocking on the door.
If Ireland, if Ireland reached the World Cup,
yeah,
you know, something like that, I might talk to my friends and Talk Sport, try to get a few commentary gigs there. And I'd love to do a lot more radio.
Well, they'd be stupid. They'd be stupid not to put you in there. But as you say, look, the Irish team's on the up. Two decent wins there recently as well. The underage teams are coming through. The League of Ireland's on a high, Trevor. Like we're seeing the numbers are up. City are flying. Some decent draws. You know, we're looking. It doesn't look like right now it's going to be a relegation battle, but we're kind of doing decent, surprising a few people. But what a time to be on TV, what a time to be on radio. There's so much happening, so many stars in the country right now shining. We mentioned Callum Walsh before we started, the Cork man. Cove Ramblers are on the up, Division 1, they're looking good, they're looking strong.
Yeah.
It's a great time, and it keeps you young, keeps you fresh, and you always have to be watching because there's so much right now going on. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, you know, Cork City there, I mean, they're back in the top flight. I think they've made a good start, really. You know, they're unbeaten at home, and I thought they were good against Shelburne last time at 1-1. Unlucky to lose to Waterford because Shawnee came off injured, obviously, and they lost the shape when Greg Bolger had to come off as well. So they were a bit unlucky in that derby. You know, be interested to see how they do against the league leaders Friday. But I think they'll hold their own. Like a lot of people, probably City fans, be nervous when they go back down again, up and down. You know, I think they'll stay up. It's a very tough league, though, isn't it? The Premier League now.
Big league.
And we're seeing it's very. If you're a gambler man, like you wouldn't be winning because there's so much surprise results in the league.
Yeah.
And every team can beat each other, I think. But I think City will do all right. Cove themselves and Dundalk will go down to the 4 matches between them, I'd say. But if they can get the better of Dundalk, I think they could go up automatically.
Yeah.
But Dundalk are obviously the favourites. But I watched Cove now the other night again. Very good. Very solid at the back. I think they've only let in a couple of goals. Obviously with Shane Griffin and Keane Coleman back there.
Yeah.
Now Keith Kimming looks very good. They have a lot of attacking threat. Barry Coffey, Bargary in the wing. You know, even Bosniak from last year. Dale Holland, they're probably the only two from last year getting the game now. Like,
yeah.
You know, there's big Cork City influence obviously down there.
There is.
But the manager looks good. I like him, McDermott.
Yeah, nice guy.
So
good presence.
I think Cove will definitely be in the playoffs, obviously, but I think they'll push Dundalk all the way. So it's exciting for the two Cork clubs this year now. It'd be good to have Cove back in the Premier Division for the local derbies in the top flight going forward as well, you know.
And they look like they're getting stronger. They might have a bit of money there. I'd say there could be something next year as well. I'm going to ask you a couple of quick fire questions, Trevor, before we wrap it up, because busy schedules. I know you have stuff at Cork City happening. So look, you've interviewed many people throughout the years, Trevor, okay? There's been so many to name. If you could name one, I know you mentioned Fergie, that could be the one, but if it wasn't Fergie, who's the, I suppose, the best you've had on camera? And
Ferguson would be up there, definitely. I've interviewed a good number of United players, like Giggs, Scholes. I just love Scholes. Like, I mean, technically, they didn't call him the Navigator for nothing. Like,
unbelievable.
You know, he's brilliant. Like, I always thought Scholes was probably United's greatest player. Maybe he's definitely one of them. I got close to Ronaldo a few times, didn't interview him. And Beckham, when I was in Milan, I was close to getting Beckham. But again, we're one off, you know.
Yeah.
Rio Ferdinand I'd interviewed. Loads of United fellas. I'd love to have interviewed Zidane. That's the big one. That would be the one I'd love to do.
Still happen.
Could still happen.
Yeah. I
missed him in Turin very narrowly. Came in with his family just to get a photograph of him. When I come back to the toilet, he was gone. But anyway, sometimes some things are meant to be. I just missed him. But yeah, Fergie would be probably my favourite because I admire the man so much.
Yeah.
I think he's the greatest manager of all time. No nonsense, like, you know. Obviously, I've interviewed Roy as well.
Yeah.
And Dennis, the Cork flavour. Yeah, I suppose being the United fan that I am, they were the standout ones. Trying to think who else I interviewed. I would say
There's been so many. Jesus.
Blows. I interviewed a lot of Liverpool players, obviously. Steven Gerrard. Dalglish was one that wasn't so good when I interviewed him when he was manager. He could be difficult,
yeah.
But
hard to understand as well, Trevor.
Yeah, it'd be a lot difficult. But the one that stands out obviously is Mourinho.
Yeah, I remember that.
When I met him in Stamford Bridge, and it was amazing how it happened, because the joke going up to it all week was that it was, you know, the biscuits, the custard creams, and that the women in the club knew where to get the biscuits from, like, and let them out. But he done all these interviews, and I stayed there right up to the very last. And I said to the UEFA organiser, I said, look, can I get a quick interview? We're still on air. He goes, 2 questions. And he came up the corridor, and he's blazed around eating the biscuits. And I says to him, Jose, well done tonight, you know. And he says, oh, why you start like that? And I said, no, we're live. And he goes, sorry. He says, and I goes, I had to talk to him then, and the biscuit was gone. And I says, custard creams? And he says, yeah. His favourites? Yeah. That was the thing, like, they went viral on all the place. Like, a lot of fellas, I'd be honest with you, like, a few journalists said, what's he doing? Giving him biscuits for, like.
Yeah. The
story was, you see, that he loved the custard creams. But the follow-up was, there was a follow-up to it. And when he came back again with Chelsea as Chelsea manager, and they won, and I had the biscuits ready if they won, but I wouldn't have given them the biscuits if they lost. I judged the situation, but I said to the ITV camerawoman, I think it was ITV anyway, but I said, look, I'm going to present it with biscuits right at the end. Will you pan out? And she said, no problem. So I says, well done again tonight, Jose, the biscuits are on TV3, you know. And he says, thank you. And he can learn. But I think it was Jacobs then in Dublin sent a box of biscuits to TV3. Custard creams everywhere for everyone in the audience.
Advertising.
But you know, I have it on my Twitter page, like, thing, myself and Mourinho. Like, it was a great memory to have, like, and he's a great interviewer. Like,
one of the greatest managers of all time too.
Yeah.
He's not far off Fergie, maybe top 5 definitely not of all time.
Yeah.
Okay, Trev, last question. There's been many iconic moments on the multi-channel in Cork throughout the years. If you could choose one, what would be that iconic moment for you while on the multi-channel?
I'd say it's kind of hard to separate between two. Obviously, the double was huge.
Yeah.
Like, the only time it's ever been done in history. Like, Teddy Mack, God rest him, has his place in history with on both teams, you know. Yeah. But the atmosphere, the city that night, and for us to do it live, like a live homecoming, it's never been done. No. Like a live homecoming. That'd be one, and the other one then go to Moscow. Like, it was massive. We're behind the Iron Curtain, like, there was no McDonald's, there was nothing there.
No Google Maps?
No, absolutely not. And just to be overlooking Red Square, you know, in the hotel we were in, the Europa Hotel, I think it was the biggest hotel in the room, 6,000 rooms, our biggest hotel in the world, 6,000 rooms. But to change it to the guard there watching that, and I was doing piece the camera on the balcony, and the Red Square, and the soldiers were changing, and off to St. Basil's Cathedral, and learning about it. It was massive, like, massive memory. So I'd say the two of those are the big standouts, but there's been so many, like, you know, obviously travelling to Prague, and just so many multi-channel, you know, with all the different sports, even this Cork City sports, doing athletics, Sonia Sullivan running, you know, loads. There's just too many to even remember. Over 10 years, you know, but I owe so much to multi-channel in my career, like, for that grounding, like, that experience, like, because you just couldn't buy it.
No, you couldn't. And look, we owe you credit, Trevor. Look, we want to say, first of all, thank you for everything you've done for Cork sports in general. I can go back to the 80s upwards. You've done so much. You've inspired many of us. I think any guy in the country right now that wants to get into sports, it's down to yourself and your commentary and your interviews. But we want to thank you, and look, we're looking forward to the next 30-40 years of Trevor Welch. There's no stopping you, Trevor, and thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you as well, enjoyed it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we want to thank the Blarney Castle Hotel as well, guys, for giving us beautiful location as always. They've been great to us over the years. So the Blarney Castle Hotel, thank you very much. This is Sports Matters TV.